Hello and welcome to Getting to Know the Garnet. I'm your host, Matt Judge. On this episode, I am joined by Peter Carroll, head coach of the women's and men's cross-country track and field programs since 2000. Thank you, Pete, for taking the time to meet with me today.
My pleasure.
First off, how are you doing?
Well, I'm good. I'm catching up on some things that have been put off for years, but I miss the daily engagement with the team and the hope and dreams of the future seasons. So don't know when that is, but
yeah, it's a challenging time right now, and as you said, the future seasons. Each year, you are in a unique position. You not only coach a fall season, you also coach during all three seasons: cross country in the fall, indoor track and field in the winter, and outdoor track and field in the spring.
Right.
Both for the men's and women's sides. Can you explain what this is like and what challenges and benefits that you see coaching all three seasons?
Sure. So with the coronavirus, one of the things I tried to impress upon my student athletes was, at least we were able to compete in the fall in cross country, and most of the athletes do all three seasons. So they were able to compete indoors also, at least up until the conference championships. And so when they missed outdoor, I said, well, imagine being a baseball team or tennis or lacrosse or any spring sport where they didn't even have an opportunity to finish their season out. So at least we had a couple competitive opportunities to engage in before Corona hit. So yeah, maybe our javelin thrower or our discus thrower wasn't able to throw because that's only outdoor track. But, I'd say 85% of the student athletes were allotted an opportunity, and that's really important to realize and not, pity and have misery on yourself saying, oh, I didn't get a chance to compete. Now, yeah, the seniors who are vying for a conference championship or maybe a national bid or an All-American spot, absolutely, my heart goes out, much empathy, but we still had a lot more opportunity than the spring sports this past spring.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, getting back to your question, the challenges are there. I think they're outweighed by the positivity of it, having the whole, both men and women training, competing at the same time. But the challenge is, volume. Track and field is a big sport number-wise. It affords a lot of opportunity for all kinds of athletes, all different events. So it's like a three-ring circus. It's difficult to monitor. You're assessing at a very quick rate with groups training on the track interval-wise. You have to be careful with stereotypes because I think one of the positives is ability levels being able to train together. So it doesn't matter male, female. It's kind of, where you are time-wise or performance-wise. But at the same time, there are some stereotypes traps that you can fall into. Can this kid do this amount of intervals? Can we mix gender? And I know, I'm sure, Coach Colby with swimming can do it, and tennis a little bit, and golf. But you don't see it very often where the men and women are training together. Mm-hmm. And I think that's awesome opportunity. We've got national caliber males training with national caliber females at the same time. I think that's unique, and I think the team members can be proud of the fact that they're helping their teammate, regardless of sex or gender, get to the highest ability that, level that they can get to. So I think it has more positives than negatives. Now, recruiting during the season is difficult because, we're going from middle of August in a normal year to, if we have people at Nationals outdoor, Memorial Day weekend. So that really knocks out a lot of time to be able to go off campus and recruit. But I just think the community is enhanced, having all these different diverse individuals training together really leads to a continuity within our community, and I think it spills over onto the campus outside of practice time.
Mm-hmm. Yes, definitely. It's great to see both teams are working together. They're both challenging each other. Your indoor season, you had a great indoor season. You had several relays win the conference championship. You Clay Connolly earn another All-American status, even though they weren't able to compete at the national championships. Can you explain how much the dedications that your student athletes have to reach such a high level, whether they're competing from the fall, like you said, all the way through until May?
Yeah, that's the secret.
Okay.
The secret
is
is
share that, but don't share it.
well, here's the secret. The secret is there is no secret.
Okay.
There was a famous coach, Arthur Lydiard, who was a distance coach for New Zealand, who talked about how Americans train, or the typical college student athlete, which encompasses most of the U.S., trains versus Olympians, and he said that with the collegiate training, we train 10 weeks to compete for 10 months, whereas Olympic athlete is training for 10 months to compete for 10 weeks. So certainly the challenge is to stay focused for so long, and it starts with a dream, right? It starts with an idea. So we might have 10 or 15% of our student athletes who dream about, as they initially matriculate into Swarthmore, they think about conference championship champion, or maybe making the national meet, or making All-American. But typically, most of the student athletes here are thinking priority number one is academics, and then, trying to fit in other things. So whether we plant the seed or my assistant coaches, there has to be a seed planted, but the cultivation is on the, is on the athlete, and staying focused, training during non-competitive season. So somebody like Clay, they're training all fall for 2 big weekends in February and March, and then 2 big weekends in late April, early or middle May, or late May. That's a lot of work. You don't get the boost that you might get as a basketball player who gets to play regular season games in front of crowds and get excited about that. I mean, you're out there in 35-degree weather, it's raining, and your circle's wet, or your distance run is soaked, and there's no climate control. So it really takes a special kind of individual to persevere and to sustain that continued discipline and that dream through 10 months, a year and a half, 4-year cycle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we do, as a support group, the coaches, we're teaching, but we're also motivating. But oftentimes, I mean, I tell my athletes for cross country, coming into the season, 65% of their success will be relative to what they did over the summer. And so they've got to figure out how to do that, whether it's with a group or on your own, or, how do you stay motivated? How do you navigate setbacks? And that's pretty tedious, sure.
So this is an unusual time, and you have mentioned that you need to make sure your athletes are staying focused while they're on campus. How have you been keeping engaged with your student athletes while they're all over the country, all over the world due to the coronavirus that's going on? How have you been engaged with your student athletes, but also making sure that they are training so that in case something comes, that they can drop and be ready to compete if something were to competition would be ready to go?
Sure. Well, the hard part is the anticipation, right? So the start and stop, like, oh, okay, we're, in April, well, actually it was in March, we were saying, oh, we're going to be back April 6th. Oh, we're going to have an outdoor season. We're going to just have a shortened outdoor season. No, season's over. We're going to, cross country is 3 months away. Yeah, we'll be okay. Now they just canceled yesterday. I think Division III decided to cancel championships. So the start-stop is difficult to deal with because a lot of the student athletes need the motivation of having a season, the chance of competing. So that's difficult. But, we're so used to training over the summer as a group and checking in. So, hopefully that much hasn't changed. The training schedules are out. A lot of the upper class know how to train already. I'm hoping that I'm teaching them something for life that they can 5 years from now use their training that they learned at Swarthmore to run a marathon or do a triathlon or something, exciting. So that's already built in. And then with COVID, you'd hope to think, I know there's limitations, facilities and gyms and whatever, but you would hope to think, wow, I've got time on my hands. Maybe I'll go out and bang out, a 10-miler or get a cross training day in or something where you can feel good about yourself. So, and then, we've had a couple Zoom chats more along the lines of what's coming or what we think is coming, and that changes every week. So sometimes I don't like to do too many of those just because, every week it's like watching the news, right? Every 36 hours, something changes and something's more important or something's more exclusive or breaking news. And you get super saturated with breaking news. So you don't want to micromanage the future, especially because of the uncertainty of it. It can drive you crazy.
Yes, that's definitely true. As you mentioned, cross country, this is where you're starting to pick everything up. You're starting to prepare for the season. Obviously, the fall season isn't going to happen. But going on a cross country basis, we had bad weather this week. Typically in cross country, you have to battle the weather, whether it's rain, wind, snow, sometimes depending on the championships. But you also have to battle landscape, such as hills and the little valleys and trees and all that. What is the most challenging course that you have competed at or coached at?
Yeah, so that's subjective, first of all, because it goes back to stereotyping. Some kids are really good at hills. They love, the harder the course, the better. They excel for whatever reason. They're, defined as mountain goats or, billy goats or whatever. They're able to do that. Myself, certainly, I was more of a flat course guy, track guy, like a speedy, hard surface, that's going to be quick and manicured. And so, consider that for the thoroughbreds, right? Thoroughbreds run at Churchill Downs, and then the old war horses do the equestrian jump fences and run over streams and things like that. So obviously that's a relative thing. I would say, we've had regional meet at Allentown College. That's a really tough course. Oftentimes our region following, we have NCAA regional meets the week before the NCAA national meet, and a lot of the coaches don't even like to be on that course for the regional meet because they feel they get their legs beat up for the national meet, and the national meet typically is on a flat, fast course. And most of the Midwest schools, they'll run on flat courses because that's what they have. Back in the day, there was a course down in Davis and Elkins in West Virginia, and as you can imagine, it was really hilly. It was very authentic European cross country through streams, over logs. And they've actually used that course for the state meet in the past for the high schools in West Virginia. But that was a real, you came off the course. If your jersey was, you could still read the college on your jersey. You weren't getting sloppy enough with it. It was really a fun, muddy, European Irish cross country setting. It was really tough.
That's really cool. Just hear different types of courses that are out there. And going off of that, as a runner, you love to run. You obviously talk to student athletes about running every day. If there's somebody out there that's just trying to start to get running, what is the process into going to pick up like a shoe? Because runners have a habit of sticking with one brand of their shoe, whether it's Asics, Nike, New Balance. What type of shoe and would you recommend, and what process do you go into of picking a shoe?
All right, so disclaimer, this isn't a promotional ad for
Correct. That's correct.
Brand. Yeah, and I think that's as relative, as the course selection and what people's strengths and weaknesses are. Are you 6'2", 170? Are you 5 foot, 115? Like everybody has a starting point of trying to figure out, where to start with what kind of shoe. It's interesting, I'm from the past, the dinosaurs in the 60s and 70s. I remember when Nike would come to my practice, that there weren't any Nike stores in the mid 70s, and they would, a representative on the East Coast would drive up in his VW microbus with 40 pairs of shoes in the back and come to our practice and open up, and there were displays with little 2x4 cut off boards, drilled into the side paneling with all the seats out of the VW microbus. So the shoes were displayed, and then the guy had 40 boxes of shoes, and you brought your $20 to practice, and you got a nickel back, and you got a pair of training shoes, and things. The shoe research would be relative to the quadrennium of an Olympic year, 72. There would be a certain kind of shoes, Montreal 72 or Munich 72, Montreal 76. Now we'd have a new R&D and a new colored shoe, and now it's like every six weeks there's a new design on a shoe, and so it's really hard to stick with a shoe over a 9-month period because the model keeps changing. Mm-hmm. And then they've got newfangled stuff with Nike making the shoe that everybody feels has a little engine in it or whatever, with the metal plate that gives you energy return. And So all the 17-year-olds want, or 18-year-olds want that shoe because it's the new and the fastest. And so it's really, if you started out with something and it works for you, why mess with it, right? But I've personally, as I've gotten older, I like the Hoka's, not to throw, an advertisement out, but it was traditionally meant for ultra distance athletes, so they had a lot of cushioning, very light. And getting old and crickety, and with my knees, having the Hoka's with all the support, the foam, they're great for me, but they might not be great for a 20-year-old. They might prefer Asics or Nike, and then racing shoes are even more individualistic.
Okay.
So it really depends on, gait and morphology, and how long do your shoes last? Are you a heel striker? Are you front foot striker? How do you really have to be your own scientist, sort of like golf, where when you're out playing, you start hitting a couple bad shots, but they're consistently bad. You got to fix it yourself, right? So as an athlete, you look at your tread wear, you look at your where your integrities break down. Do you need midsole support? Do you supinate or toe in or toe out, or heel in and heel out? So I don't know. It's common sense usually wins the day with, hey, did I last a season uninjured and use the same pair? Mm-hmm. And like I said, the problem is that the R&D, they want to modify the series, and now you can't get the same shoe that you got 9 months ago. So maybe if something works for you, get 3 pairs of it. I don't know.
Yeah, you have
to stock up, because it's like toilet paper. It disappears, right?
Exactly. Yeah, you never know when you're going to be able to find the exact shoe that you like. So a few years ago, actually in the last 5 or 6 years, you've been happy because you're a Villanova alum and you love Villanova basketball. You try and go when you have free time. Can you talk about your love of Villanova basketball?
Sure. Well, yeah, you defined my disclaimer with being an alum. So, and I was a proud track alum. My teammate at Villanova, Marcus O'Sullivan, is the head track coach. And sorry, can I go get the lights?
Yes, you can. Yeah.
We are energy efficient here, and typical Swarthmore, we are concerned about power, and so if I don't move enough in the office, my lights go out.
Yeah.
Which it should be, save energy. So, hey, I got to say up front, if I want to see a really good basketball team, all I have to do is walk up to Tarble and watch basketball up there. So and the price is right? So I just want to give a shout out to the basketball teams. How the men certainly are on a roll. Sadly, had to shorten their season, and the women are going in a good direction, positive direction. So if I want to see good basketball, I don't have to go very far. That said, one of the reasons, or the main reason, is the community with Villanova basketball. I get to see a lot of old teammates. Now we are old, old people with money in our pockets, and so I get to see a lot of teammates from the 80s that have season tickets, and luckily they are one of the things about Villanova in the Augustinian tradition was charity, and so I will get a ticket from a person every now and then, a friend of mine. So that's great. I have a couple, the Beebes, Joe and Nancy Beebe, whose daughter ran for me, class of 2012, Stephanie, who was a conference champion, Amanda, younger sister, was a great golfer here at Swarthmore. And though I didn't know the Beebes when I was at Villanova, they were a year behind me.
Wow.
And so I get to see them, and they are generous enough with ticket sharing, and not just at the Finn, which is the new facility on campus at Villanova, but also downtown in Philly at the Core States, Wachovia, Wells Fargo. What is it now?
Wells Fargo, yeah.
So
it's hard to keep up.
Whatever the name is this year of the building, and going down to see a UVA or Georgetown game down there is so much fun. But it's really about connecting back with the community that I grew up with and the people that are just wonderful and so much fun to just see, and an excuse to meet up with. And so that's really what seals the deal with the Villanova basketball is seeing old friends and having an excuse to see old friends in a pretty cool situation, especially when two national championships in the last in the last 4 years, something that hopefully our men's basketball coach is working on as we speak.
Yeah, I think he's working on that. He was close the last 2 years, so hopefully.
Yeah, so when they win 2 out of 4,
it'll change.
maybe I won't be going down to the main line as much.
Well, that'd be perfect then. So, do you have anything else to add before we close up this interview?
No, I appreciate the opportunity to talk, and it's always fun to talk about the program. But we need to stay strong. We need to in this time, and I know the young people especially are saying this is my time. It's difficult and it's not fair, and it's dangerous too. I mean, there are casualties, and it's awful. And we need to make prudent decisions and be smart about it, just like your training, just like your academics. Follow the science. So we'll get through this, and sports will become not important again. It's always been important, but we've had so much focus on the process and not much focus on the championships and the highlights that we need to get back to competing and to just having fun and respecting our competition and engaging with athletes. I mean, we have people that are friends for life, whether they're alums, whether they're conference teammates that maybe 10 years from now are all working in the West Coast and want to do a hood to coast relay that's 200 and whatever miles, and something extraordinary as far as a physical challenge and a mental challenge, and we have the opportunity through sport and teaching our kids that are currently here that they can continue the process, and hopefully a lot of the characteristics of discipline and stick-to-itiveness helps you through the COVID piece too. So hopefully next time we meet, we can do it under better conditions and talk about how the conference went, as opposed to speculating if the conference will go.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes, I definitely agree. And I greatly appreciate your time today and your insights on various topics such as Villanova basketball, Swarthmore basketball.
They had a great recruiting class. I don't know, it's another top 5 recruiting class. So Jay, you're doing a great job. So we'll see. I'm excited for it.
All right. Thank you very much, Pete.
All right, Matt. It was a pleasure. Thank you for the invitation to your humble video chat.
Of course. Yes. And we'll see each other soon.
Okay. Take care.